I think it's necessary and appropriate to share for everyone here, including the court, the background that brings us in front of Your Honor today for these proceedings. As the record reflects, and as everybody in this courtroom knows, the defendant has pleaded guilty to all 5 counts charged in the indictment. Under oath before Your Honor, he has admitted that the charges against him are true. He has reassured the court that he has not been coerced or threatened to make those admissions. And Your Honor did an extraordinary job in taking the pleas back on July 2nd. We appreciate the court's discipline and insight. The defendant has also waived appeal on the multitude of rulings from this court and Your Honor's predecessor in Latah County on dozens, literally dozens of motions seeking to dismiss the case, seeking to control or limit evidence, seeking to offer evidence that would not be appropriate. And we appreciate the court's consistent rulings based on the law, based on the facts. As Your Honor will recall, on June 18th, it's just really not that long ago, we appeared before this court for arguments on what became the defendant's final motions to this court. Motion where they wanted to offer evidence suggesting that other people were responsible for the defendant's actions, and the motion seeking essentially an indefinite continuance of the trial. It was readily apparent to all of us in the courtroom from Your Honor's comments that those motions were not going to be granted. So we returned to Moscow and continued with what we had been working on for months in preparation for trial. We had no qualms about going to trial if trial was what was necessary and appropriate. The following week, after we were in court, we were approached by the defense with an inquiry about a possible plea. And I can tell the court this is the first suggestion ever that there was any consideration, because indeed, the defense had maintained from the beginning that Mr. Koberger, the defendant, was factually innocent. It's clear that the reality of the evidence and the case that had been investigated and prepared and that we were ready to present in court became a reality. Our reaction, among other things, was to reach out to all of the families. And in fact, later that week, on Thursday and Friday of that last week of June, we met with representatives by teams, virtual meetings, with representatives of all of the families. And we talked about the status of the case and the upcoming trial and things that related to the trial. And we also let them know that there had been an inquiry about whether there might be an offer for a plea. And we asked the family members for their thoughts and feelings. And they were candid. And they have been candid since, and we respect that. And we understand, recognize, and acknowledge that there was a difference of opinion among representatives of the different families. We understand that. One of the challenges of this case, one of the unique things about this case is we have multiple victims, each unique unto themselves, their families and friends unique unto themselves, and all of them entitled to their opinions, all of them entitled to their thoughts. Over the following weekend, our prosecution team, very skilled attorneys who were personally as well as professionally deeply invested in this case, met. And we talked, and the decision was reached. Well, to start with, were there to be any sort of plea offer or discussion, there's only one possibility. And that would be for the defendant to plead guilty straight up to all charges. There would be no bargaining about counts. There would be no bargaining about reduced sentences. And so we made the proposal to the defense that if the defendant was willing to plead guilty up front to all 5 counts as charged and waive appeal of the court's myriad decisions during the past 2.5+ years on all these motions that would have consumed years, if not decades.
All right, you're listening to Bill Thompson. He's the top prosecutor in the county where the crimes occurred in Moscow, Idaho. Earlier, we did hear from 2 of the roommates who were actually in the house when the murders occurred. They testified, one of them asking, do you feel anything at all? It was an emotional testimony today by the victim impacts. The victim impact statements were happening for a couple of hours this morning. We're going to take a quick break and have much more for you coming up right after this break. Welcome back to Take Two. Andre Sr. here with Sal Castaneda. Just a heads up for those watching, you can watch on our YouTube page. We're streaming Take Two on our YouTube page in addition to KTVU.com and also Fox Local. But you can comment if you're watching it on the YouTube page. Right now, we have several people that are watching from there. We are still watching the Brian Koberger case. That is the former criminology student accused of killing 4 college students in Moscow, Idaho. You're looking at a live picture inside the courtroom. Victim impact statements have been going on, and I want to play some reaction. One of the victim impact statements was from Dylan Mortensen. He was one of the surviving roommates. Here's what he said earlier today in court.
Then there are the panic attacks. The kind that slam into me like a tsunami out of nowhere. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't stop shaking.
So Mortensen there describing having to sleep in her mother's bed following the murders, afraid to even close her eyes. One of the enduring mysteries of the 2024 killings has been why neither Ms. Mortensen nor the other surviving roommates called 911 for more than 7 hours after the attacks. Miss Mortensen, the woman you heard from there, told investigators that she had seen a masked man moving through the house in the middle of the night, but retreated back to her room. She texted her roommates, and when there was no response, hunkered down in a room until noon that day, until friends came to the house and discovered the body. Let's listen in as Bill Thompson, this is the prosecutor in the county in Moscow, Idaho, where the murders took place, to see what he's telling the court right now.
At 1122 King Street in Moscow, Idaho. For a long time, the presiding district judge in Latah County was John Stegner, who eventually became a member and a justice of the Idaho Supreme Court. And Justice Stegner often observed that even God cannot change the past. But everyone in this room has the ability to take themselves forward. And we want the judicial system to afford them the opportunity today to do that. From today forward, our memories should be focused on these innocent victims whose lives were taken, on their families, on their friends, on the community. The court has heard discussion, talk today, reminiscences today about a special family that our victims shared, not just their natural, legal, and biological families, not just their university family within their sororities, for example. But this family. This is the picture taken on November 12th, 2022, of the special family of 1122 King Road. And you can see all 6 of these dynamic, vibrant, loving, special, innocent faces taken together just across the street from their residence, and barely 12 hours before 4 of them would be brutally murdered in their sleep. They've been described consistently as being bright, caring, vivacious, with futures we can only imagine now. But they were, and they remain, a special family that I think we should all recognize and appreciate. So it's time to move forward. There have been a number of statements directed specifically at the defendant today. I have one last thought. After Your Honor imposes judgment and sentences the defendant to spend the rest of his life in prison, in other words, sentence the defendant to die in prison, he's going to stand up in the belly chains and leg irons that he's wearing today, and he's going to be escorted into the custody of the Idaho Department of Correction. And the door will close behind him forever. That is the closure that we seek, that all of these people, these loving friends and family deserve, so that we can move forward. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and be back right after this with more of the Bryan Kohberger sentencing. Back here on Take Two with Sal Castaneda, we're watching the Kohlberger sentencing happening right now. Bill Thompson, the prosecutor, acknowledged that some of the victims' families had opposed a plea deal that was offered to Brian Kohlberger that he accepted, because right now some family members don't even know the motive for this, and some had argued that as part of this plea deal, he should have been forced to give a motive for this, but that is not part of this. And so right now the family still have no idea why their loved ones were murdered. But right now we are waiting for the final sentencing. The victim impact statements are over right now, and Bill Thompson, the prosecutor, continues to speak before the court right now. Let's listen in, and I think we may have switched over to the judge at this point now. Let's listen.
Special part of their very essence. Any person who is a parent defines themselves foremost as such. It is their existence and purpose of being. And it has been stolen from these parents. None of us have experienced the loss these victims have in the unspeakable way that they have. And therefore, none of us can, nor should we, question the way in which they have handled their loss.
We just missed this.
Whether that be in private mourning,
did offer Kohlberger a chance to make a statement, but Kohlberger said, quote, "I respectfully decline." Let's listen in back at the judge.
Retribution with the loudest megaphone. I've listened intently to the stories and pain that have been shared today with great awe at the courage and resilience of the surviving family members of those wonderful children. I've listened also to the surviving roommates, both in person and through their friends. And I can't think of how, frankly, courageous they have been despite the hell that they have faced by uncaring people who have come up with all kinds of crazy theories about two kids simply being kids. The parents, siblings, and other family members who have spoken today are designated as victims in our legal system. But going forward, I hope that they can shed that label, as it gives too much power to the evil that condemned them to that role. They are and should be known as survivors, fighters, and foremost as witnesses to the tremendous lives of value and unbounded promise of these four young people. But those speaking today and those who did not speak but who carry this same burden, this same loss, now carry forward the memories of these now perpetually young people, these forever children. These survivors carry the responsibility of ensuring that the voices of these children, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, are never forgotten, and the positive impacts that they have had on so many lives are never minimized, and that the love they shared, the light that they shined onto others, is forever celebrated. As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil, but we don't know, and what we may never know is why. I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why. But upon reflection, it seems to me, and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohlberger relevance. We give him agency and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently.
We're about to wrap up here. Again,
I have to say, I don't agree.
You don't agree with
I don't agree with. I want to. I think a lot of people want to know why.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
Yeah, you're saying what the judge said, but yes, people still, that family member, you always want to know the why here. He's agreed to 4 consecutive life sentences as part of the plea deal that allows him to avoid execution. That is what is getting ready to happen in court right now. Stay tuned, more live programming coming here from KTVU Channel 2. Garcia and Mike are up next with Off the Mic coming up in just a few seconds. Stick around for that.
All right, time now for a little off the mic with Mike and Garcia. Just a couple of people navigating the world of broadcast news in the San Francisco Bay Area. Garcia, Mikhailian, anchor in the mornings. I'm Mike Meback, anchor in the evenings. And a long time ago, we actually anchored together. Good morning to you, my friend, or good afternoon or good evening, wherever people are watching right now or listening. I just came in from outside and, yeah, woke up. Picked up the dog poop, had a cup of coffee, noticed the raccoon got in the garbage can, cleaned that up, and here we are doing
You need the
a
bungee
pod.
cords. You need the bungee cords to hold down the top. How's your dog
I
doing?
have the bungee cord, but I've been on a good stretch of 18 2 months, 2 years almost. So the bungee cords are
Wow.
tucked away. But
Okay.
anywho, good morning. That's how my day started. And we have a fuller house. We have 3 other people here. My brother-in-law's in town visiting with his 2 children from England. So,
Oh, wow.
so it's been fun.
Wow. How old are the children? Are they about your children's age or wildly different?
Yeah, similar age. Yeah,
Oh,
just like that,
good.
similar age. So.
Oh, that's good. Are you guys doing
Um,
anything touristy or what's the plan?
They're doing a couple things for the next few days around here. I think they're going to the Rock, Muir Woods, some classic San Francisco staples, and then we'll charge out of town. You know, when you go on vacay mode, like the last couple days of work, like you're working, but you're not really working. Like I would never admit that I'm not working or my mind's not completely
Oh, I
into it because it's
see.
into it. But then in the back of your mind, maybe in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I can't wait to do this or get out
Yeah.
of here. We
You're
start
like, I can
picturing it.
almost taste it. Yeah.
Like, see you later. Have a nice time, So
Oh,
I'm
that's
kind of there
good.
almost, but
Okay.
especially when the family comes to town, because then it's like getting very close. Like, oh, this is happening.
Yeah.
Like, this is going on right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
Anyways, how was